My sister-in-law was lazy and entitled, demanding steak and fried chicken at every meal and flying into a rage at the slightest provocation. My family treated her like a queen, but I wasn't jealous in the least, because soon enough, her flesh would be laid out on the altar, too. One Copper Creek Hollow is buried deep in the Appalachian Mountains, cut off from the world by winding roads and spotty cell service. The folks here don't farm, and they don't commute to jobs in the city, yet they all wear gold rings and drive new trucks. They never seem to worry about money. It's all thanks to the grace of the Founder's Chapel. The story goes that every 10 years, a girl born under a dark moon has to be chosen and carried up to the old chapel on the hill, an offering to the matron who lives inside. Only this sacrifice ensures that Copper Creek Hollow remains prosperous, that the money keeps flowing. No one's ever seen the matron. No one knows what she or it looks like. Around here, the chapel and the matron are sacred, forbidden topics of conversation. At the last drawing of lots, my family's name was picked. It fell to us to provide the offering for this year's ritual. My mother was both thrilled and terrified. Thrilled, because after the offering, our family would be showered with unimaginable wealth. Terrified, because finding a girl who fit the specific criteria was nearly impossible. You could search the entire state and come up empty. Ma was so worried she could barely eat, wasting away to skin and bones. Then, 6 months ago, old Mr. Hemlock, the town's unofficial mayor, showed up at our house. He and Ma huddled together, whispering in hushed tones. The next day, Ma left in high spirits, announcing to anyone who would listen that she was going to find a bride for my older brother. A few days later, the town celebrated with cheers and hollers as a pale, plump young woman was brought to our doorstep. Her name was Jenna, born in a dark year, on a dark month, on a dark day. Ostensibly, she was the bride my family had paid a small fortune for, the daughter-in-law welcomed like royalty. But I was the only one who knew the truth. My brother, Dale, had been gored by a bull when he was a teenager. He couldn't have kids. Jenna wasn't a bride. She was the offering they'd spent months searching for, the prize hog being fattened for slaughter. Jenna had smooth, pale skin and a delicate face, but she'd always hated the sun and rarely left the house. Ma said that was common for girls like her and fixed up a special windowless room for her. She was never allowed to do a lick of work, waited on hand and foot, fed the best of everything we had. Every juicy steak, every crispy piece of fried chicken, it all went to Jenna. When it was my turn, I got leftovers and bread crusts. I could never understand why Ma was so biased, treating this stranger better than her own son. Until the day she sent me to the garden at the edge of town to water the vegetables. On my way back, I saw Mr. Hemlock standing under the old oak tree, whispering with Ma. "How's the offering coming along?" he asked. "Don't you worry," Ma replied. "The prize hog's been fattened. Almost market time." I frowned. It was the middle of summer, nowhere near butchering season. I tried to get closer, but Hemlock spotted me. He cleared his throat and walked over. "Caleb, that you?" "Yes, sir," I said, nodding a greeting. He clapped me on the shoulder, but his eyes were roaming over me, sharp and calculating. "You're turning 14 soon, aren't you, Caleb?" I nodded. "Next month. The big day is almost here, then." Hit. He chuckled, then turned and walked away, hands clasped behind his back. I watched him go, a weird feeling twisting in my gut. I looked at Ma. "What were you and Mr. Hemlock talking about?" "Mind your own business. Did you water the garden or not?" Her eyes were full of their usual disdain. "Now get inside and start dinner. If your sister-in-law goes hungry, we'll all pay for it." I flinched and scurried into the kitchen. Later that night, Dale stumbled home, drunk as a skunk. He came into the kitchen and ladled some cold water from the bucket to splash on his face. He got treated a lot better than me. He'd lost a pile of money playing poker that afternoon and had come crawling to Ma for more. "Losing today, losing tomorrow," Ma grumbled. "You'll gamble away everything we have." Dale just grinned. "What's there to worry about? Next month, we go up to the chapel. Once we offer up the girl, our family will be." "Hush your damn mouth, you fool." Ma clamped a hand over his lips, her eyes darting toward Jenna's room. She hissed at him to keep his voice down. I knew something was up. Later, when Dale was passed out, I snuck into his room. "Dale," I whispered, "how come you and Jenna sleep in separate rooms?" He was half conscious, his eyes barely open. Ma won't allow it. Why not? Are you always this damn annoying? He swatted at my head, and I dodged. He curled up under the blankets, his words slurred by the whiskey on his breath. The offering has to be pure, untouched, so she's fit for the altar. Hith, hith. 3. The next day, I was out in the field pulling weeds when I ran into Mr. Hemlock, taking a walk. Without warning, he slapped me hard on the shoulder. I've been malnourished my whole life, skinny as a rail. His strength almost knocked me flat. Caleb, you're looking thin. Hasn't your mother been feeding you? I'm just a stray, I said with a weak smile. Gotta be raised lean. It was an old saying in the hollow, meant for runts of the litter. But most families doted on their youngest. Mine was the exception. All I ever got from Ma were chores and curses. Lean is good, Hemlock said, helping me up with a grin. His eyes were small, and when he squinted, they looked like knife points. You carry the town's good fortune on your shoulders, boy. His stare made my skin crawl. I had no idea what he meant. I changed the subject, my voice trembling slightly. Is my sister-in-law really one of them? A dark moon girl? His face hardened. Who told you that? I lower my head. Just what people are saying. What have you heard? He pressed, his voice low and threatening. I feigned ignorance. Nothing much. Just that she has bad luck. Born under a bad sign. They're talking nonsense. Pay them no mind. He shook his head and walked off, casting a long, greedy look back at my house, a smirk playing on his lips. My stomach rumbled. I grabbed the vegetables and headed home. Ma tossed me a thick pork chop. Wash this and cook it for your sister-in-law. Watching the meat sizzle in the pan, I swallowed hard, my mouth watering. Ma, I asked hesitantly, could I have just a little of the broth when it's done? You worthless stray. You think you deserve pork chops. She grabbed a wooden laundry paddle and smacked me hard across my backside. You were born trash, and you'll eat trash. That night, my stomach empty and my heart full of resentment, I carried the bowl of pork and gravy into Jenna's room. She was tearing into the meat, and the sight made me swallow again. The last time I'd had pork was at the town barbecue last summer. What are you staring at, you little animal? Suddenly, she stopped eating and glared at me. Anger flared in my chest. Just eat. I've got dishes to wash. She set her fork down and pointed to the leftover gravy in her bowl. I know you're starving. I'm not very hungry tonight. You can have a rest. Her face was a mask of contempt, like she was tossing scraps to a dog. My face burned with humiliation. I don't want your slop. You're nothing but a pig we're fattening up. Next month, you're going to the slaughterhouse. The words were out before I could stop them. But instead of getting angry, Jenna just gave me a chilling smile. The pig this family raised. Isn't that you? I was completely bewildered. Before I could ask what she meant, I heard Ma shouting from outside. Caleb, is she done yet? Get out here and do the laundry. Coming, I called back, angrily grabbing the dishes. Jenna glanced at the window, wiped the grease from her lips, and continued in a low voice. You know why she won't let you eat meat? I froze. Ma always said I was born sickly, that I had to be raised lean to survive into adulthood. Jenna laughed as if she'd heard the funniest joke in the world. She leaned closer, her voice a whisper. A sun-touched boy has too much fire in him already. They can't let you get too comfortable, too strong. It would bring bad luck to everyone else. You turn 14 next month. You should start thinking about your future. I'm not the only pig in this pen. Her words left a cold knot in my stomach. The way she looked at me was full of a dark, knowing pity. 4. We were out of cooking oil. I went to Ma for money to go to the store in town. She threw a handful of crumpled bills and coins at me. Money, money, money. That's all you ever want, you little leech. A quarter hit me in the face. I rubbed my stinging cheekbone and silently picked the money off the floor. I'd barely made it to the edge of the hollow when Dale, furious from another losing streak at poker, blocked my path. Where do you think you're going with that, Runt? We're out of oil. Ma sent me to town. You don't need this much for oil. He snatched a $20 bill and slapped me on the cheek with it. Pick me up a bottle of whiskey while you're there. And don't you dare tell Ma, or I'll beat the hell out of you, you little bastard. I stared at the remaining few dollars, but I didn't have the guts to say no. He was always calling me that. Bastard. If I was a bastard, what did that make him? Copper Creek Hollow was a long way from anything. The nearest town was a 7-mile hike down a winding mountain road. I walked fast, hoping to get back before dark. As I passed an old, abandoned church on the outskirts of town, A large, heavy-set man in clerical robes stopped me. "Caleb Hayes, you don't look well. You get thinner every time I see you." "Brother Jonah, can I help you?" I knew him. He was a traveling preacher who often came to town asking for donations, always with a smile for everyone. Once, I'd used the money Ma gave me to secretly buy a few hot dogs, and seeing him on the street corner, I'd given him one. He'd praised my kindness, said I was destined for great things, and we'd talked a few times since. "Give me your hand." This time, he wasn't looking for a handout. His face was grim as he studied my palm. "A fire in your blood, a heavy shadow over you, and you're untouched. This is a sign of blood to come." What? My heart lurched. I remembered what Jenna had said the night before. "Preacher, how do you know that?" He patted my head, his eyes holding a strange light. "I not only know about the blood to come, I know you were born on the 4th of July. A sun-touched body and a sun-touched soul. And I know you lost your parents as a baby, that you were adopted by the Hayes family." Wait. His words hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled back. "You're lying. I'm not adopted." Brother Jonah's face was calm. A man of God does not lie. A sun-touched child is a curse on those around him. You cost your own parents their lives the day you were born. 13 years ago, I myself saw you brought into Copper Creek Hollow by traffickers. I cannot be mistaken. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. I finally understood why Dale always called me a bastard, and why Ma always called me a leech. It all made sense, but I still didn't get it. If they knew I was a curse, why raise me? Brother Jonah took a deep breath. "Because the chapel in Copper Creek Hollow requires an offering." "You're a liar," I screamed, my scalp tingling with dread. "They're looking for a Dark Moon girl. It has nothing to do with me." "It seems you know nothing at all." He looked at me with a profound sadness that made me tremble. "The ritual in the hollow has gone on for generations. It requires 2 sacrifices. One male, one female. One a sun, one a moon. Only by offering both can the chapel truly be opened." I was numb, my throat too dry to swallow. How do you know all this?" He explained that he had visited Copper Creek Hollow once, long ago. He'd felt a powerful, unholy energy coming from the chapel and had tried to investigate, but the townspeople had banded together and driven him out. "That place is deeply wrong. No one farms, no one works, yet they're all rich. I suspect it's connected to the evil beneath that chapel. I've been watching, waiting, ever since." I didn't say another word. He was right. Everyone in the hollow worshipped the matron, but what was she? A ghost? A demon? I'd lived there my whole life and had no idea. I only knew the chapel was forbidden ground. The adults never let the kids go near it. Brother Jonah sighed. "Perhaps you will have your answer next month. They will surely send you in as the second offering." "But I don't want to die." My face was sheet white, tears welling in my eyes. The legend of the chapel ritual was a nightmare that had haunted my childhood. I knew anyone chosen as an offering never came back. I fell to my knees, begging him to save me. "This is the town's karma. I did not intend to interfere," he said, then looked at me. "But you—" "I will do what I can." He removed a single polished black stone from a string around his wrist and handed it to me. "The people there are corrupted by the chapel's influence. It stripped them of their humanity. Take this stone back to the hollow. Find a way to drop it into the town well. It will suppress the evil aura for a time. I will figure out the rest." "Thank you, preacher." I took the stone, but my mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear. Could I trust him? I had no idea what to do. It was getting dark by the time I trudged, heartbroken, back into the hollow. I looked up at the chapel on the hill, a dark silhouette against the twilight sky. It felt like a hungry mouth, waiting to swallow me whole. "You worthless stray, coming home after dark. Are you trying to starve us all to death?" Ma appeared out of nowhere, grabbing my ear and dragging me into the kitchen. Looking at the woman who had never shown me an ounce of kindness, a seed of hatred began to sprout. For the first time in my life, I talked back. "Dale's not home either. He's still out playing poker. Why don't you make him cook?" "How dare you talk back to me?" she shrieked. "Who the hell do you think you are, comparing yourself to my Dale? You were born trash." My heart, already bruised, turned to ice. No mother calls her own son trash. I truly wasn't hers. During dinner service, I went back to Jenna's room. She didn't touch her food, just watched me with a mocking expression. "You look awful. Did you find out?" I stiffened. "Find out what?" She giggled, covering her mouth. About the chapel, of course. The Hayes family raised you because your son touched. The perfect material for sacrifice. My hands and feet went cold. You can talk, I shot back. You're no different. They fattened you up, so the matron will have more to feast on. Jenna sneered. I won't be eaten. You, on the other hand. I froze, a thought clicking into place. If Jenna knew she was destined for the altar, why would she willingly walk into this trap? She had to have a plan. We're in the same boat, Caleb, she said, her smile vanishing, her eyes turning cold as ice. So, I'll give you a way out. If you listen to me, you might live. She leaned forward. To survive, you have to deal with your mother and your brother first. My heart hammered against my ribs. Ow! She handed me a small paper packet filled with a fine white powder. She told me to put it in their food. I hesitated. Even after all the abuse, the thought of, but Ma had raised me, hadn't she? Don't be a fool. Do you have any doubt why they raised you? Jenna's expression was grim, but then she smiled again. Don't worry. It's not enough to kill them. It'll just scramble their brains for a while. They'll recover. I collected the dishes without a word and went back to my room. For days, I agonized over it, unable to make a decision. The day of the ritual drew closer. Ma was practically buzzing with excitement. I, on the other hand, was a nervous wreck. While cleaning, my hand was shaking so badly I knocked over Dale's bottle of whiskey. He flew into a rage and cornered me in the kitchen, beating me senseless. He'd been on a losing streak, and he took it all out on me. He was built like a bull, all muscle and fury. I was a scarecrow. He kicked me until I thought my ribs would break. You goddamn bastard. Worthless piece of trash. What good are you alive? Ma just sat on the porch, cracking sunflower seeds. She only came over when she saw blood dripping from my mouth. Don't hit him so hard. If you kill him, who's going to do all the work around here? A wave of pure, cold hatred washed over me. I wiped the blood from my lips. I was done with this family. The next day, I poured half the powder into a new bottle of whiskey. The cheap liquor smelled so strong that Dale didn't notice a thing. He drank himself into a stupor, stumbled over to Jenna's room, and got screamed at before he could even open the door. He didn't dare cross her, so he just shuffled back to his own room. Soon I heard his snores. I lay awake all night, my heart pounding. What had I done? The next morning, I was jolted awake by Ma's hysterical screaming. My boy. Oh Lord, what have you done to my boy? My blood ran cold. I bolted into Dale's room. He was sprawled on the floor, his face twisted into a grotesque, inhuman mask. White foam bubbled at his lips. His eyes were vacant, and he was giggling like a madman. He had lost his mind. I was horrified. I burst into Jenna's room and demanded to know what was in that powder. Her expression was venomous. Something to break his mind. He'll be a drooling fool for the rest of his life. Forget about him. You should be more worried about yourself. There were 5 days left until the ritual. Ever since I learned my fate, I'd been living in a state of constant terror. I couldn't sleep, haunted by the fear of death. The way the other townspeople looked at me had changed, too. Their eyes held a hungry anticipation. That afternoon, Mr. Hemlock came by again and spent a long time whispering with Ma in the backyard. She was heartbroken over Dale, but she hadn't forgotten what was important. After Hemlock left, she put a heavy padlock on the front gate and told me I wasn't to leave the property. They were getting ready. Jenna knew everything, even locked away in her room. When I brought her dinner, she seemed on edge. Why haven't you given the powder to the old hag yet? She's been with Dale day and night, I lied. She's barely eating. I can't find a chance. Can't find a chance, or can't find a nerve. Her eyes narrowed into slits. You useless thing. They all want you dead. If you can't bring yourself to do it, then get ready to be served on a platter. She pulled open her curtains and pointed outside. The road leading out of the hollow was dotted with men. They were pretending to chat, but their eyes kept flicking toward our house. They've blocked the only way out. You can't run. Listening to me is your only chance to live. Let me think about it, I muttered. I didn't do what she said. Even if I drugged Ma, I couldn't escape Copper Creek Hollow. There was only one option left. The stone Brother Jonah had given me. That night, after the last lights in the hollow had gone out, I snuck over the back fence and made my way to the town well. With all my strength, I slid the heavy stone cover aside. I took a deep breath and dropped the black stone into the dark water. Brother Jonah had said the town was cursed, that the stone would break the evil. I didn't know if it would work, but it was my only hope. I watched the stone sink, my heart pounding, then sprinted for home. Just as I reached my yard, a flashlight beam pinned me in place. Mr. Hemlock and a few other men stepped out of the shadows, their smiles thin and cold. "Caleb, what are you doing out and about so late?" It was stuffy inside. "Just getting some air," I said, forcing myself to sound calm, innocent. "Couldn't you sleep either, Mr. Hemlock?" "Hith, hith." He gave an awkward laugh. "Get back inside, boy. It's not safe to be wandering around at night." I slammed the door behind me, leaning against it, gasping for breath. They were watching me. I was a prisoner. I tossed and turned all night, praying the preacher's charm would work. The next morning, I stumbled into the kitchen, my eyes red and raw from lack of sleep. "Caleb, did you go out last night?" Ma's face appeared from around the corner of the house. I paled, unable to meet her gaze. After what happened to Dale, she'd become deeply suspicious of me. "What were you doing out in the middle of the night?" Her voice was low and menacing as she advanced on me. I shook my head, my mind racing for an excuse. Just then, our neighbor, Mr. Chun, ran into our yard, shouting, "It's terrible. Something's wrong in the village. People are coming down with a strange sickness." Ma dragged me to Hemlock's house. The front lawn was covered with people, all lying on the ground. Every one of them had the same vacant eyes and slack-jawed expressions as Dale. They were completely unresponsive. "What's happening?" I stared in disbelief. It was impossible. Jenna had been locked in her room the whole time. The town erupted in panic. People were screaming that it was a plague, demanding Hemlock do something. "Everyone calm down," he yelled. "I've already sent for a man of God to help us. Look, he's here." Hemlock's face lit up with relief as he ran toward the road, like he was greeting a savior. I turned, confused, and my heart stopped. The holy man Mr. Hemlock had summoned to heal the town was Brother Jonah. A deep unease settled over me. Something was very, very wrong. Ma saw Brother Jonah, and her face went white. She grabbed my arm. "Caleb, we have to go home. Now." Without another word, she pulled me away. Back at the house, she started frantically packing a bag, her expression terrified. "He's here for revenge, Caleb. You have to stay away from that preacher. He's here to destroy us." "Ma, what are you talking about?" I was completely lost. "I have to tell you the truth," she said, her voice trembling. "You're not my son. Years ago, that preacher came to Copper Creek Hollow. He said he was here to spread the word of God, but he was really after the chapel." Her words came in a panicked rush. "He brought a baby with him, an infant he was planning to use as an offering to get inside. Your father found out and he fought to save that baby." She looked at me, her eyes swimming with tears. "That baby was you. The preacher hurt your father badly. He died a few days later." She sobbed. "I've been so cruel to you all these years, but it's because every time I look at you, I see your father's face, and I remember how he died. Now he's gone, and there's no one to protect us. That preacher is here for revenge. He won't spare any of us." I was stunned, my head buzzing. So that's how Jonah knew my birthday. He was the one who... Suddenly, I thought of the black stone. I dropped it in the well last night, and now half the town was sick. The stone wasn't meant to suppress evil. I had been used. As my mind reeled, Ma finished packing. "Quick, get your brother. We have a hide in the mountains. I'm here. I won't let that man hurt you." My head was a chaotic mess. "Ma, Dale can't run anywhere," I said, shaking my head. "I need to ask you something else." "What is it?" she mumbled. "They say I'm a sun-touched boy, that I was raised to be an offering, just like Jenna. Is it true? How did you? Who told you that?" Her eyes suddenly flashed with a dangerous light, like she was hiding a blade. Bang! Before I could answer, the front door was kicked open. Mr. Hemlock stormed in with a mob of furious townspeople. He pointed a shaking finger at Ma. "You witch! You had your son poison the well, so you could have the chapel's treasures all to yourself." "No!" Ma cried, wringing her hands. "I didn't. It's a misunderstanding." "Still denying it?" Hemlock roared. The mob swarmed into the house, tearing the place apart. Soon, someone emerged from Ma's room, holding a small paper packet, the other half of the powder I'd used on Dale. Someone had planted it under her pillow. I stared in disbelief toward Jenna's room. She was peeking through a crack in her door, a sly, cold smile on her face. It had all been a setup. We caught you red-handed. Hemlock bellowed. How dare you deny it? We have to thank Brother Jonah for warning us, or we'd all be dead by your hand. He ordered the men to seize us. I tried protest, but someone shoved a dirty rag in my mouth. Burn them, someone in the crowd screamed. Make them pay. Peace, my children. A calm voice cut through the chaos. It was Brother Jonah. Leave the boy, Caleb. The Lord has a special purpose for him. Hemlock's anger instantly melted into reverence. Of course, Brother Jonah. Whatever you say. 9. They tied us up and threw us in the yard like sacks of garbage. Brother Jonah dismissed the villagers, then walked toward my mother with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. My dear old partner, he said, and the words stunned me. After all your years of scheming, you still ended up paving the way for me. Ma spat at him. You bastard. I should have used more poison back then. What you did to me then is now happening to your own son. That, my dear, is karma. She shrieked and lunged at him, but he caught her by the throat with one hand and forced a pill down her gullet. She gagged and tried to throw it up, but he drove a fist into her stomach. Her body convulsed, and she passed out. He kicked her aside and turned to me, his smile chillingly casual. Do you know why this old hag married into the Hayes family in the first place? The rag in my mouth muffled my response. We discovered the secret of Copper Creek Hollow together, he explained, pulling the rag from my mouth. I had her marry into the family to get information, but the greedy witch decided she wanted it all for herself. She poisoned me. He chuckled. But I didn't die. I hid in that old church, waiting all these years. For today, my jaw hung open. The stone you gave me, it wasn't to fight evil. It was poison. You used it to frame my family. You've got half of it right, he said with that same unsettling smile. Now that I've cured the town, they'll do anything I say, which means I can finally walk right into that chapel. And Jenna, creak. The door to Jenna's room opened. She walked out, a triumphant smile on her face, and stood beside Brother Jonah. Master, she said, her voice filled with reverence. I understood everything. The fire pit she'd willingly jumped into had been part of her plan all along. You'll pay for this, I snarled, my teeth clenched. Jenna knelt beside me, patting my cheek. There isn't a single good person in this family. They raised you to be a sacrifice, kept you skinny and weak so you couldn't fight back. In a way, I did you a favor. I was about to spit back a retort, but Jonah had already turned to discuss matters with Hemlock, leaving Jenna to watch over us. Night fell quickly. Ma and I were locked in the woodshed, starving. I was used to it, but Ma wasn't. When she woke up, she started cursing Jonah, screaming that he would burn in hell. She seemed delirious, her mind broken by the pill and the shock. I was about to tell her to shut up when footsteps approached. Jenna stood in the doorway, holding a steaming bowl of stew, the aroma thick and savory. Hungry? I made some soup. My turn to serve you. About time you showed some decency, Ma croaked. I'm starving. Feed me first. Jenna picked up a piece of meat with a fork and held it to my lips. You first, Caleb. I pressed my lips together and shook my head. The smell was making my stomach ache with hunger, but I knew this was no act of kindness. Besides, I hadn't seen Dale all day. He's about to be sacrificed anyway. It would be a waste. Give me the meat. Ma shrieked. Jenna, annoyed, moved the fork to Ma's mouth. Ma lunged forward like a rabid animal, biting the meat off the fork and swallowing it whole. More. Give me more. Jenna fed her a second piece, and then a third. Soon, the entire bowl was empty. Jenna knelt in front of her. Was it good? Ma licked her lips. Delicious. What kind of meat was it? So tender. Your own son's flesh, of course, Jenna said, her smile turning demonic. The master said it was a final gift from a son to his mother. You'll burn in hell. Ma's face turned ashen. She convulsed, trying to vomit. Jenna grabbed a rag and shoved it in Ma's mouth, stopping her. Ma thrashed wildly, her hands and feet bound, until her eyes rolled back in her head and she went limp. Brother Jonah appeared in the doorway, a wicked grin on his face. He kicked Ma's unconscious body. That's for you, you old witch. That's your karma. He slung her over his shoulder and told Jenna he was stepping out for a bit. Jenna saw him off with a sweet smile. The moment he was gone, she brought a stool over and sat in front of me. This family is finished. If you want to live, you're going to have to work with me. I'll never help you again. I screamed, my voice raw with grief and horror. You're a monster. You fed a mother her own son. Even though this family had never shown me love, the sheer depravity of it made my bones ache with cold. I know what you're planning, I spat. Do you think you have any chance of living? Jonah used me, and he's using you. You're just another tool, another sacrifice for him. She wiped the spittle from her face, her expression unreadable. I know that better than you do. Then why do you help him? If I don't obey, my fate will be far worse than your mother's, she whispered, leaning close. He forced me to do everything. I wanted to be free of him for years. But I need a partner. I laughed, a bitter, broken sound. And what can I do to help you? Everything, she said, her expression dead serious. Helping me is helping yourself. It's your choice. I stared at her for a long moment. If you want my help, you tell me everything. The whole truth. Fine. Seeing me nod, she let out a sigh of relief and began to tell me the secret of Copper Creek Hollow. Years and years ago, a group of outlaws discovered a sealed, cursed mine deep in these mountains. Prospectors and thieves came from all over to try and get inside. But the mine was protected by a powerful malevolence. Just digging toward the entrance cost dozens of lives. The deeper they dug, the more men died. When they finally reached the main vault, no one dared to enter. It was a place of certain death. But their greed was stronger than their fear. So they devised a horrific solution. They started breeding what they called grave rats. They're not normal rats, Jenna explained, her voice low. They're raised exclusively on human corpses. By eating the dead, they take on the aura of death, which means the mine's curse doesn't affect them. They can move freely inside. The outlaws built the chapel over the mine's entrance and released the grave rats into the tunnels, training them to bring out treasures. But the rats were small, and the horde was vast. Worse, by feeding on the darkness in the mine, the rats grew more vicious, more intelligent, and less controllable. So the outlaws settled here, founding the village. They made a rule. Every 10 years, they opened the chapel. When they did, they'd offer a woman born under a dark moon as a tribute. The grave rats live their lives in darkness, feeding on death. They are savage creatures, but they have an insatiable hunger for human flesh, especially the flesh of a dark moon girl. It's a delicacy they can't resist. After feasting, the grave rats would be placated enough to bring up a portion of the treasure for the villagers to live on. Generation after generation, the original outlaws died off, but their descendants continued the ritual of feeding the matron. Jenna paused, her eyes glinting. The matron the villagers worship is the original matriarch of those grave rats. After a century of breeding in that curse mine, she and her brood have become something more. She looked at me. Now you know the truth of the ritual. I was speechless, the horror of it all sinking in. So my ma and brother Jonah. Jenna chuckled. A secret this big can't stay buried forever. Sooner or later, someone was bound to find out. 15 years ago, Jonah and Ma targeted the Hollow. Ma managed to marry into the Hayes family and spent years uncovering the secret. But once she knew, her greed took over. She had Jonah find a sun-touched baby boy, and once he delivered you, she poisoned him and left him for dead. Then she raised you, waiting for the next time the mine could be opened, planning to take it all for herself. Where her family's name was finally drawn, she paid a fortune to buy a dark moon girl for the sacrifice, my character in this play. But she never knew that the girl she bought had been raised from childhood by the very man she tried to kill. He didn't die from the poison, Jenna said with a grim smile. He pretended to become a preacher, all the while plotting his revenge against your mother. She pointed a thumb at her chest. Then he found a girl who fit the profile, murdered her parents, and raised me himself. When the time came, Jonah knew Ma would be desperate for an offering. He served me up on a silver platter, a Trojan horse to bring down her family and enact his revenge. Then he used you to poison the townspeople, so he could ride in as their savior and gain their complete trust. Now he had it all. He'd had his revenge and was in total control of the Hollow. The next step, she finished, is to lead us both into the chapel and offer us up. I stared at her, a cold dread washing over me. But you said they only need a dark moon girl to open the mine. Why does he need me? She shook her head. He doesn't just want to open it. He wants to wipe out the grave rats and take every last scrap of treasure. The 10-year ritual was too slow, too inefficient. The rats had grown too powerful, and they would never allow anyone to take the complete hoard. They wanted to keep their steady supply of tribute. You're a sun-touched boy, she said, her eyes dark. You're destined for a hard, lonely life, but your condition has its uses. Her gaze was intense. Your very being is protected by a celestial force. Evil cannot touch you. My blood is a lure of pure darkness, perfect for drawing out the grave rats. Your purpose is the exact opposite. Your blood is a holy weapon that can destroy them. I finally understood. That's why he needed both of us. Jenna leaned closer, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. When we get in there, first we do this. And then, I nodded numbly. 11 Brother Jonah moved fast. I thought he would wait for the official day of the ritual, but he must have been waiting too long. He couldn't stand it anymore. The very next day, he organized the ceremony. Jenna and I were bound and led by the villagers to the foot of the chapel hill. A great bonfire roared in front of the dark, silent building. Everyone who wasn't sick had come. Mr. Hemlock looked worried. Brother Jonah, the day isn't right. Are you sure it's wise to do this early? What if something goes wrong? Jonah's face was like stone. The matron has waited 10 years. Her impatience is what brought this sickness upon you. Once the offering is made, the sick will be cured. Hemlock beamed. Of course you're right. I'll get everything ready. The whole town was electric with anticipation. I looked at their faces one by one. Their greed was so naked it was almost comical. The fools had no idea what would happen when the mine was truly opened. Soon, Brother Jonah strode over. When he thought no one was looking, he slipped a knife into Jenna's hand. You know what to do when you get inside. I know, Master, she replied with a sweet smile, though a flicker of shadow crossed her eyes. At the chosen hour, the villagers heaved open the ancient, dust-covered doors of the chapel. The groan of the old wood hinges sounded like a final, mournful note. Jenna and I were shoved into burlap sacks and carried inside on a plank. I struggled, but it was useless. Damn kid, skinny as you are, you still got some fight in you. Hemlock grunted, kicking at the sack. Another villager laughed. Don't you worry, sir. After we feed the matron, we'll all be rich. That's right. Now toss them in. Thump. Jenna and I hit the stone floor hard. The footsteps of the villagers faded away. With a final groan, the heavy doors slammed shut, plunging us into absolute darkness and silence. The only sound was the frantic beating of my own heart. Suddenly, I heard the rip of fabric. Jenna had cut herself free. A moment later, she was untying my sack. I sat there, paralyzed with fear, staring into the black emptiness of the chapel. I started to speak, but she clamped a hand over my mouth. Don't make a sound. If you don't release any of your vital energy, the grave rats won't find you. She pressed a cold, smooth stone into my hand, then crept toward the back wall of the chapel. She took out her knife and tapped it against the stones. A moment later, her eyes lit up. Found it. I saw it then. A section of the wall was made of loose bricks. Jenna raised the knife and sliced her own wrist, letting the dark red blood drip onto the loose stone. Scree, scree. The sound of 100 tiny claws scrabbling on stone filled the air. The loose bricks were pushed out from the other side, revealing a dark, gaping hole that radiated an icy cold. Jenna was already back, pulling me under the heavy stone altar. She grabbed the knife and, without hesitation, sliced my wrist open too. I was already rail-thin. The sight of my own blood pouring out, being collected in a bowl by Jenna, made my head swim. I almost passed out from pain and fear. Hang on. It's almost done, she whispered, squeezing my wrist to make the blood flow faster. Only your blood can deal with them. Just as I thought I couldn't take any more, I peered through the gap under the altar and saw a sight that will haunt me for the rest of my life. Rats. Hundreds of them. They poured from the hole in the wall, fat as house cats, with glittering red eyes that seemed to glow in the dark. They were agitated, sniffing the air, searching for the scent of the dark moon girl. My face was ashen. I bit my lip to keep from screaming. What are you afraid of? Jenna hissed, giving me a contemptuous look. They won't come near you. She took the bowl of my blood and smeared it all over her own body. The grave rats swarmed the chapel floor, their screeches echoing in the stone chamber. They were starving, desperate for their feast. But my blood masked Jenna's scent. They couldn't find her, and their frustration grew into a frenzy. I didn't know how much longer I could stand it. Then Jenna tapped my head. "Don't be scared. The show's about to start. Just remember what you promised me." She took the bowl of my blood and slipped away into the shadows. I was about to call after her when I heard voices outside. It was Hemlock. "It's been a while. Why is it so quiet in there?" "What do you expect?" Another voice laughed. "The matron's probably finished her meal by now." "Hemlock, open the door. It's time to collect our payment." All right, the time is right. Open up." The villagers threw the doors open, their faces greedy and triumphant. They weren't met with piles of gold, but with a swarm of red-eyed, starving rats. Arg! Hemlock was the first one in. A cat-sized rat leaped onto his neck, sinking its teeth in deep. In seconds, he was covered, his screams of agony lost in a tide of feasting vermin. This was their once-a-decade banquet. Hemlock wasn't a Dark Moon girl, but at this point, the rats didn't care. The other villagers who had rushed and screamed in terror, but it was too late. The matron they had worshipped for so long was welcoming them to the feast. That night, Copper Creek Hollow became a slaughterhouse. The frenzied rats attacked anything that moved, leaving a carpet of mangled corpses in their wake. It was hell on earth. Then, a cold voice cut through the carnage. "This fortune was never meant for the likes of you." Jenna stepped out of the shadows. She threw handfuls of uncooked rice, which I now saw had been soaked in my blood, into the fray. The rats shrieked in pain as the blood-soaked grains hit them, smoke rising from their fur. They abandoned the corpses and fled back into the hole in the wall. My sun-touched blood was anathema to them. The floor was littered with the dying, their moans filling the air. "The grave rats were raised on death," Jenna said, her voice devoid of pity. "Their bite is pure poison. Enjoy what little time you have left." She stepped over Hemlock's half-eaten corpse. Suddenly, a figure burst into the chapel. A flash of steel went straight for Jenna's heart. She dodged, throwing the now-empty bowl at her attacker. It shattered against a thrown knife. Brother Jonah stood in the doorway, his face a mask of cold fury. "Good work, my little apprentice. You've taken care of the pests for me. Now, your service is no longer required. You betray your own student." Jenna's face hardened. She kicked the altar table aside and ran. "It was always going to end this way," Jonah sneered, pursuing her. He cornered her against the far wall, his bloody knife raised. Jenna put on a show of pitiful terror. "Master, I don't want any of the treasure. Please let me live. I'll serve you forever." "I'd hate to lose such an obedient apprentice," he snarled. "But the fewer people who know this secret, the better." He lunged, pinning her against the wall, raising his knife for the final blow. But Jenna's expression was strangely calm. She grabbed his wrist, holding him in place. "Caleb," she screamed. "Now!" Jonah's eyes widened in shock. It was too late. I threw the smooth, cold stone she had given me earlier with all my might. It struck him squarely in the back. He cried out, stumbling forward, coughing up blood. He stared at Jenna in disbelief. "The boy, he's still alive? You didn't kill him." Jenna stood up, brushing herself off. "I only took his blood. I didn't kill him. How else was I supposed to deal with you on my own?" "A fine scheme," Jonah wheezed, his face pale. He looked at the stone on the floor. "A shadow stone. You crafted it in secret, just for me." "Of course," Jenna said, picking after it was done. She searched Jonah's body, taking his string of polished stones and a few other items. She laughed, a wild, triumphant sound. "The grave rats are gone. With these charms, I can enter the mine without fear and take everything." I stood there numbly, watching the carnage. I turned to leave. "Stop right there, you little animal." Jenna's voice was sharp. She pointed the bloody knife at me. "Where do you think you're going?" I turned back slowly. "The villagers are dead. Ma is dead. Jonah is dead. There's no one left to stop you. What more do you want from me?" She hesitated. "Aren't you tempted by the treasure?" A bitter smile touched my lips. "It's all yours. I'm leaving." "Pathetic little coward," she sneered. "Fine, I suppose I can spare one life. Now, get out of my sight." Satisfied that I was no threat, she turned and strode confidently toward the hole in the wall. I stood in the doorway, closed my eyes, and began to count. 3. 2, 1. A blood-curdling scream echoed from the back of the chapel. I turned around. Jenna was crawling desperately from the hole, her back a bloody mess. A massive grave rat, the size of a large dog, was latched on her shoulder, tearing at her flesh. "Why are they still here?" she shrieked, her eyes wild with terror. "Caleb, help me!" I glanced at the bloody gash on my wrist, then smiled. "Sorry, Ma kept me too skinny. I don't have any more blood to give." You planned this." She choked out, her eyes wide with a final, horrifying realization. Then she went still. Scree. The rest of the swarm emerged, their true matriarch among them, and fell upon their long-awaited offering. When they were finished, they padded over to me, rubbing against my legs like contented cats. I looked at the largest one, the ancient matriarch, and smiled. "Grandmother Rat," I said, "I have brought you a feast. Eat your fill. From this day forward, you are all free. Your watch over this mine is over." I always knew I wasn't their son. Dale, in his drunken rages, had let slip enough pieces over the years for me to put it together. When I was 9, I overheard Ma talking to Mr. Hemlock, and I understood her true purpose for adopting me. At first, I was terrified, but living as an unwanted child had taught me patience, how to endure. I didn't run. Instead, I snuck into the chapel. The creatures that horrified everyone else were, to me, just a colony of miserable, cursed guardians. They were bound to the mine by dark magic, but they couldn't harm me. My sun-touched blood made me anathema to their curse. While Ma and Jonah schemed and plotted how to get into the mine, I had already walked its tunnels dozens of times. I had met the creature the villagers called the matron, a rat that had lived for over a century, grown intelligent and powerful. She and her children were tired of their prison. They wanted to be free, and I was the only one who could help them. Thinking of the years of abuse, of the greed and cruelty of this town, the rat matron and I made a deal. But I couldn't take on the whole village alone. So I waited. I endured. And then, one day in town, a preacher approached me, offering salvation. I knew my chance had come. Mr. Hemlock, Ma, Brother Jonah, and my clever, scheming sister-in-law, they were all just courses in the grand feast I had prepared for my true family. After devouring them all, the rat matron was powerful enough to finally lead her children out of the mine and into the world. As her reward to me, she left behind the chapel's treasure. A lifetime of wealth, all for me.